then let's just all drop out, and then Melissa or somebody just.
I think. Well, this one's only what, 16 channel, 12 if you only count those things. But this one's cool. This one's
No, you can tickle, but you don't.
Yeah, it's got a nifty little memory module.
And then we'll just
so if
do
you have
that.
a preset, you
We'll
like
just tag the whole thing.
click save and click go to
The
it.
first verse.
Fancy stuff.
Let's do my name saves so she has to transpose that way.
All the different things that you, especially sets of channels, and a couple of different of these. So if you had to switch between them, it would change the entire board to what the other interface was set to. So it was pretty adaptive to mixed board. I had no idea how to work.
Did you go to a performing arts?
It was arts high school. So yeah.
Yeah, so let's, it's great.
Gotta have fun.
That's a finals I'd like to go to.
It was pretty great. There was some great times. And they were recording.
It's better than turning your middle finger black with all the writers.
Yeah.
I have one of those kind of finals. It's, writing a lot of writing, but it's also a lot of troubleshooting. My last finals, we had system that we had to tape up and try and find out some vision. That was fun because my first go, I stick the chroma there for massive spark whole thing.
Well, that didn't work. Let's see what else we can do.
I'm just like, okay, quick, wait some years before he finds out. Complex troubleshooting, digital computer applications.
That's pretty good. Really big Legos.
Or really small. I mean, it's pretty cool. They're starting to fit like 20,000 transistors on a single front cell.
Let's do it.
Words, man. That's impressive.
So we're gonna go verse,
The processing power on chips today are just
verse,
They've been working hard.
bridge.
It's kind of funny too. You can get a single CMOS chip with more processing power than the computers in the
This is right here.
You do. Because I do not. I'll be following the bouncy ball.
They'll show a little bit that
Okay, wonderful.
absolutely required big things.
It'll be great.
Gosh, they make things easier.
Yeah. I just like the fact that it's always changing too. I mean, like, it's rather difficult because associates take 2 years to get, and at that point, the technology is completely changed. You overhaul the stuff, but just keep it. Yeah. But it's still pretty cool. There's
always something to be excited about, but it's not like, okay, 2 years for this to come out, and then we get to have some progress.
Well, it's just the advancement of the number of transistors we can fit on a single chip doubles every 2 years, which basically means that our processing power doubles every 2 years. That's the technological advancement. I haven't thought of these actually. I'm guessing that they're going to see some around there because Layla's friend will be in spring. So,
think that's your fault. Maybe. No, I might talks about a lot.
Yeah, well, I think
That's fun. That's really fun. Walking is easier than sitting, let's just say that.
Okay, good morning. Good morning. We're going to start worship. So if you'd like to stand with us, that would be great. Your needs and worship.
taking me over, taking me over, and all I want is to be with you forever, with you forever. In case you didn't know that this morning is Young Adult Sunday, we have some pretty beautiful young adults on this stage, don't we? Christy, Mark, myself. But leading us in worship this morning is a really beautiful soul, Melissa Adney. You know, this church is about raising up leaders. The Adneys are great examples of that. But we have some youth in this room that are seeing the young adults step forward in faith and finding confidence deep inside themselves to step out in front of all of you and do this. But what I wanted to mention to you is that what I feel coming back from you onto the stage is really palpable. It feels good. This is a really great community, and this is one of my favorite Sundays.
How deep the Father's love for us, how vast beyond all measure, that He should give His only Son, his wounds have paid my ransom.
So beautiful. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Bailey. Everyone, what do you think? Must be beautiful.
Well, that's a picture of love and grace. Good morning, welcome to the table. If you're new here this morning, a special welcome to the table. If you haven't already noticed, we're a little different. So, mostly my husband, but you know, we're all a little different. Really, if you're new here this morning, first of all, I want to say thank you to Kennedy for leading our kids this morning. So kids, you're dismissed. You can go in. We're going to make Valentine's this morning for all the people that we love. And we're going to actually bring some over to the nursing home. So if they want to make extras for the nursing home folks, we're going to do that this week since it's what? Valentine's Day week. It's Love Week. So the table is a little special place. We're gathered here this morning we gather every Sunday, just about every Sunday, to worship, to come together in community. On the front of your bulletin, you'll see our core values. And our goal is to walk out those core values every week, not just here at the theater, but Monday through Saturday. And some of the ways we do that is going to the nursing home, going to ICCM. We have youth group on Tuesday nights. One of the other ways we do that is Car Clinic. We support Car Clinic that meets the second Saturday of every month out in Elk River. And Bill Hoppy was actually there this Saturday, so he's just going to give us a little update on that.
Oh, if anybody knows about Car Clinic, it's a nonprofit organization that helps people that can't afford to get their cars fixed, to help them get their cars fixed to what we can. We can't obviously do like transmissions or motors, but to do a lot of simple maintenance like alternator starters, suspension work, brakes, minor repairs of all types. Yesterday we had 7 cars come in. Yeah, which is a lot for, and there's about, Lynette is also one of our parts owners and a very good, Bailey works in the kitchen with, basically when you come there you get, they feed the people that are waiting around a nice simple meal. We try and do the best we can in their cars. There's about 15 of us that actually either rotate or they're consistently as mechanics. Tim Hiller goes above and beyond for everybody there. I can't say it enough. He had Lynette running parts all day yesterday. They had one of the parts runners run 3 hours, an hour and a half in each direction to get special parts for a car because they couldn't find it locally. I didn't mean that. I want to do the fact that that's what he pushes it to go above and beyond for everybody there, because everybody that comes to us is in such a need that it's just, you can't, unless you've been there, you can't really kind of understand what the need is. But he goes above and beyond, and I said we helped 7 people pretty well yesterday. We had one car that we actually couldn't help the lady with. The car was just too bad a shape. But it needs some prayer. Yeah, she does. She's in jeopardy of starting on fire. She's got 5 years. She's carting around a special. Yeah, her car has got no suspension in it. The front end is completely gone. It's leaking fuel when she starts it. We told her just to drive it home and have to park because it's too unsafe to drive, and there was nothing we could do as Car Clinic to help her. But we tried, and we worked on it for 4 hours, trying to do what we could for her. We didn't accomplish anything, but at least we tried. So, but we helped 6 people get their cars back together, and I mean, it's a whole team of us. I'm just one of the mechanics there, so.
And a good mechanic at that. And so if you've never been to Car Clinic, like I said, they meet the second Saturday of every month, and they welcome volunteers, but they serve meals throughout the day to all the people that come in, and they try to help them fix their car. It's an amazing ministry. That's one of the ministries we support here at the table. I'm going to ask the ushers if they would grab the baskets. So basically, nobody at the table takes a paycheck. But we take an offering every week, and that offering goes out these doors to bless other people. So one of the things that we bless is Car Clinic. One of the things we do is bless our youth leaders every once in a while. We fill their gas tank up, or we do something nice for them because they gather every Tuesday. But even more than that, we just listen. We listen to God's voice. And I find it amazing where He directs us to give. So it's been everywhere from Uganda to Haiti to Highway 101 and 81. And I look forward to where He calls us this year, 2014, to give. And I honestly, I believe He's already spoken this morning about some of the places to go next. And you'll hear about that in the next coming week. So let's pray. Jesus, thank You for Your goodness and grace to us. You are a good God, and I thank You for that. You amaze me with Your love and Your grace for Your people. Father, I pray this morning for each one here that they would be stirred to know You better and to serve You in a deeper way. And Father, I want to pray for this woman at Car Clinic. Jesus, I just pray for a miracle around that situation. I pray for a car for her. And I pray that someone might even come forward to Tim and at the Car Clinic, Tim and Michelle, and bless her and her 5 children with a car, Jesus. We know You do miracles, and we believe in that. We lift these things up to You in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen, amen. Okay, guys, I'm going to pass the basket. And like we said earlier, today's Youth Sunday. And we had youth worship team. And Corey Adney is our student ministries leader, pastor, over our kids on Tuesday nights. And God's blessed him with a heart to share, as you all know. Those of you who have heard him before. So, and I'm impressed. He's been looking for a pot. Look at what he brought. Way to go, Corey. I'm impressed. So welcome, Corey.
Sorry, if I was really on top, I'm going to go down this way. Is this on? Should I use this?
Yeah, you're good.
My apologies, Mark, for messing up your area here. I'm going to start by reading the story. A lot of times you read a passage or two. This one's a little bit longer, but it is the center of what I'm talking about this morning. I make this assumption a lot of times when I get the chance to share, when I pull from a Bible story, that everybody just knows the Bible story and I can just jump into it. But I was enlightened to something a couple weeks ago. I received a quote, and I've already shared it multiple times with people, but the quote that I got was, if you take a group of 100 people, 1 out of those 100 people has read the Bible, the other 99 read the Christian. So just because everybody in this room is a Christian or comes to church doesn't mean that everybody's read the Bible. We found out last week that a man I've looked up to for years let us know that he doesn't even own a Bible. So I need to stop assuming that just because I know a Bible story, everybody knows the Bible story. So this is from John chapter 4. It's when Jesus talks to the woman at the well. Now Jesus learned that the Pharisees had heard that he was gaining and baptizing more disciples than John, although in fact it was not Jesus who baptized but his disciples. So he left Judea and went back once more to Galilee. Now he had to go through Samaria, so he came to a town in Samaria called Sychar, near the plot of ground Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired as he was from the journey, sat down by the well, and it was about noon. When a Samaritan woman came to draw water, Jesus said to her, "Will you give me a drink?" His disciples had gone into town to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "You are a Jew, and I am a Samaritan woman. How can you ask me for a drink? For Jews do not associate with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God, and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." "Sir," the woman said, "you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. Where do you get this living water? Are you greater than our father Jacob, who gave us his well and drank from it himself, as did also his sons and his livestock?"
Jesus answered, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so I won't get thirsty, and I want to keep coming here to draw water." He told her, "Go and call your husband and come back." "I have no husband," she replied. Jesus said to her, "You're right when you say you have no husband. The fact is you have had 5 husbands, and the man you now live with is not your husband. What you have just said is quite true." "Sir," the woman said, "I can see that you are a prophet. Our ancestors worshipped on this mountain, but you Jews claim that the place where we must worship is in Jerusalem." "Woman," Jesus replied, "believe me, a time is coming when you will worship the Father neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem. You Samaritans worship what you do not know. We worship what we do know, for salvation is from the Jews. But a time is coming, and has now come, when the true worshippers will worship the Father in the Spirit and in truth, for they are the kind of worshippers the Father seeks. God is Spirit, and the worshippers must worship in the Spirit and in the truth." The woman said, "I know that Messiah called Christ is coming. When he comes, he will explain everything to us." Then Jesus declared, "I, the one who's speaking to you, I am he." Just then his disciples returned and were surprised to find him talking with a woman. But no one asked, "What do you want?" or "Why are you talking with her?" Then, leaving her water jar, the woman went back into town and said to the people, "Come, see the man who has told me everything I ever did. Could this be the Messiah?" They came out of the town and made their way toward him. So this morning, what I'm actually talking about, and I wrote down that entire passage, is one of those little F words we're not allowed to use. We don't use it in society. We try not to use it at church. It's one of those. It's off limits. We don't talk about it. Where I'm talking, it's failure. Looking at my life as a quick example, I have lots of things that I would deem failures. I am currently applying to what is my 10th college. If I am accepted, it will be the 10th college I've been accepted to, but once I start taking classes, it will be the 5th college that I've actually taken classes through, and if I complete, it will be the first bachelor's and then hopefully on to master's degree that I will have. I'm 25, I've gotten my associates, but I haven't managed to stay with the college long enough to move on any further. A lot of people in society would deem that failure. I had a time in my life come up where I was suicidal, where I struggled with faith. People would consider that failing. There was a time as a big brother where I should have been part of my sister's life and I wasn't. Fortunately, God sent her somebody to be with her, but I wasn't there when I should have been. I failed at that. We are urged not to talk about failing because our society says failure is not an option. Failure is unacceptable. Failure is not okay. The fact of the matter is every time we start something, every choice we make, every time we go to do something, we've got a 50-50 chance. Either we're going to succeed or we're going to fail. Nobody succeeds at everything every time. Half the time, we're going to fail. It's part of the human condition. It's part of life, but we're not supposed to accept that. We're not supposed to talk about it. And failure is, if you look up phobias and things like that online or anywhere else, one of the most common phobias, just a common fear, is public speaking. People don't like getting up in front of people and talking. But if you dig deeper and talk to psychologists, psychiatrists, priests, anybody who deal with people individually and go a little bit deeper, one of the biggest fears is actually just a fear of failure. What if my job doesn't give me everything that it's supposed to? What if this degree doesn't give me what I thought it was going to? What if I go and do this and it doesn't work out? What if I do this and this happens? Failure is always just, it's everybody deals with it. It is a fear of anybody because nobody wants to fail at anything. It's a secret fear. We fear failure not necessarily because we fear the failure itself, but we fear what the failure brings with it. Because it brings mockery, it brings ridicule, it brings loss. When we fail, we usually don't announce that we failed to a bunch of people.
Max Lucado wrote about a tombstone that he found. One day he was just meandering through an old cemetery, and he found a headstone, had no birth date, no death date, just had a name and an inscription. The inscription was, "Sleeps but rests not, loved but was loved not, tried to please but pleased not, died as she lived, alone." Talk about futility. That's just depressing. Happy Sunday morning. I bet I could lift your spirit. But isn't that just kind of a fear for us when we look at our lives? I mean, I'm only 25 and I know it's common for me when I think about however far down the future I'm going to go. I don't want my headstone to say that. I don't want it to say that. Nobody wants it to say that. But this is what we all fear. Are we failing? We know the Bible is full of failures that God turned around. But this morning I'm looking at one. From the story I just read, obviously, I'm looking at a woman who was married 5 times and then divorced or widowed 5 times. A woman who is now living with a man who wouldn't even give her his name. She's a Samaritan, so she knows the feel of racism. This is a woman, obviously, who would have been considered a failure. This was a woman who was more than likely the center of some unflattering gossip around the town well. The first thing that strikes me about this story is Jesus stops and rests by the well at noon, and this woman comes to draw water. At that time in history, people went to the well to draw water in the morning when it was still cool outside. They're lugging ceramic jars that are heavy enough empty, let alone fill it with water. How heavy that's going to be. You don't want to do that at noon in the heat of the day. You go in the morning when it's still kind of cool outside. You can draw the water and walk it back. But this woman would rather walk to the well in the heat of the day by herself to draw water than go in the morning when there's a bunch of people there. Why does she wait until noon? Probably because if she goes in the morning when everybody else is there, she knows that there's going to be pointing and whispers. Oh, that's her. So rather than deal with that, I'll just go at noon when nobody else is there. John tells us that Jesus was tired from his journey and the disciples had gone into town to buy food, so Jesus sat down at the well of Jacob as the Samaritan woman approached. Jesus asked her for a drink, and the woman is stunned. A Jewish man asking her for a drink? And they talk, and this is probably the first time a man has had a respectful conversation with her in who knows how long. And he tells her of water that he can give her that will quench her thirst forever. She asks for the water, and Jesus says, "Go and get your husband." We all have that one thing in our life where it's like, yeah, I'm a pretty open book. I'll talk to you about anything. Well, how's this? No, I don't. We don't talk about that. I'm an open book. How's school going? Nope. Let's not talk about school. How'd you do on that test last week? Nope. Let's not talk about that. We all have things where it's that our don't touch topic. I'll talk about anything but this, and this had to be that for that woman. Please don't ask me about this. I don't want to talk about this. Oh, my husband? She could have lied. Oh, he's busy. He's at work. I can't go get him right now. She could have walked away. Oh, sure, I'll go get him, and then just never come back. But in the end, she just admitted, I don't have a husband. That's brave. This was her big area of failure, and she admitted it. When we get asked about our no-no subject in our life, we have to fight the urge to lie or to run away because we fear the outcome that telling the truth is going to bring. If I tell you the truth, you'll be mad. You'll be disappointed. You'll make fun of me. What does Jesus do? Jesus says, you're right. That's all. Nothing more than express the truth of her situation. Jesus wasn't seeking perfection. He was just seeking honesty. Mark says, healthy people don't need doctors, sick people do. Jesus came for the sinners, not the righteous. She was a failure, but she was honest about who she was. And Christ accepted her for it. Because of this acceptance, she felt comfortable asking a question, which was, in short, where do I find God? I shared this story, or a condensed version of this at youth group. It's like when we show that love and acceptance that Jesus showed, that's going to open doors for people to look at us and be like, okay, something's different about you. I know you go to church. I know you're part of this youth group. I know whatever. So she asked, okay, so you're okay with this being my situation. So where do I find God? Of all the places for Jesus to find a hungry soul, he found one in Samaria, a place where a Jewish man had no business being, and a woman who at that time in society was a lower class, a 5-time divorcee, a social outcast. And here in this place, Christ admits who he is. And this is the first time that Jesus flat out says who he is. If you read the scriptures, there's alluding to it, there's parables, there's metaphors, there's all these little things, giving hints or giving descriptions and all this and that leads people to believe he is who he says he is, but he doesn't come right out and say it. Because he knows that the Pharisees and members of the Sanhedrin are waiting for him to make this claim. Because if he says it, it's blasphemy and they can arrest him. So he watches what he says very carefully. He's really smart. Whenever he's speaking in public, he doesn't come right out and say who he says he is, because he knows that if he does, he's going to be arrested, he's going to be taken away before his ministry is over. So he doesn't. But right here at this well in Samaria, for the first time, he admits to somebody who he is. He didn't go to King Herod and tell him who he was. He didn't go to the Sanhedrin and say who he was. He didn't do it in a Roman court. But to this woman, John 4:26, I who speak to you am he. We're honest with Christ. Christ is honest with us. She admitted to Christ who she was. He admitted to her who he was. Now, all of this is great. It's a wonderful story. But what happens next is huge. And I don't want the symbolism to be missed, because sometimes I feel like it is. Then, leaving her water jug, the woman ran back into the city. I was asking Kim and Suzanne if anybody had something like this, because I wanted a visual aid. This is pretty much exactly what I was hoping to find. So thank you, Mark and Suzanne, for bringing this today. But if you ever go to a museum or see something on Discovery Channel or National Geographic, you see something that looks pretty much like this. The water jugs that they used to use. I mean, empty, these things are heavy. Imagine filling this with water and then carrying it back to wherever you came from before going to the well. But even just this by itself, not the lightest thing. As the woman walked to the well that morning, this jug was weighing her down. If you try to visualize a woman carrying this, it's probably causing her shoulders to sag. She's probably bent over. It's a burden. Jesus reveals who he is and what he offers, and she's so excited to go share it that she leaves the jug behind. The reason that she went to where Jesus was in the first place. The weight that she had been carrying, she left behind as she ran back to share the news of Jesus. This story doesn't necessarily resonate with everybody. There are some people sitting here right now who you know you belong. You know that you're needed. You have more friends than you know what to do with. You have more things on your to-do list than you can ever get done. Insignificance is not going to be your legacy. Know it. Appreciate it. Feel blessed that you don't have to worry about that. Anybody who's like me relates pretty well to the woman at the well. We know the feeling of not belonging, of being an outcast, wondering, where do I find God? We've had times where we feel like complete and total failures. I've had multiple times where I felt that way. But the great thing is we have this awesome God. A God who takes a life that no one can use and then uses it as no one else can. We have a God who takes something common and turns it into something amazing. We have a God who used a wooden rod to separate a sea. We have a God who used a pebble to kill a giant. We have a God who turned water into the finest wine. A God who took a little boy's lunch and used it to feed a multitude. A God who used mud to restore sight. And a God who took a tree and 3 nails and made them a symbol of hope. And even after all that, we still fear failure. We fear what the failure brings with it, because this world has taught us that failure is not acceptable. We need to realize that failing is just a part of life. No one wins every time. And once that we find the courage to be honest about who we are and where we are, others will feel the courage to share who they are and where they are. And Christ will show you who He is and where He is. And who He is someone who takes something like a water jug and says, this is now a tombstone for failures. You can leave it right here and go. I believe very strongly that sharing our stories, being open, being honest, sharing the parts of our life that have been struggles and failures is not just important, but central to this. People outside of the church have this concept that people in the church are perfect and have their lives together and expect everybody else to be the same, and we really need to shatter that image. The church, this building, being in a meeting like this is not for healthy people. Healthy people don't need this. Just like a healthy person doesn't need a doctor. Sick and broken people need this. Just like sick and broken people need a doctor. We all have these failures. We all have these issues. We all have these things. And we need to stop pretending we don't. I did a few months back, did a thing where I left note cards and a pen on, people's chairs. And you could write down what your fear, what your issue was, and leave it at the foot of the cross. I didn't do that this morning. I'm not making a requirement or anything, but I had a lot of people tell me it was helpful. So every week I've left that cross in a basket and stuff out there so people find it helpful or therapeutic to put it on paper and actually leave it at the foot of the cross. You can. What I did today is there's blank note cards and pens on the tables. If you have something you're struggling with or a fear that you want just feel like you need a way to let go or anything like that, take a note card, take a pen, write it down, walk over to the cross, fold it up, rip it into little pieces. I don't care what you do with it. Nobody's ever going to see it. It's just there as a therapeutic aid. But drop it in the basket at the foot of the cross. Take your water jug to where Jesus is and leave it there. And I still have, there's still a little bowl of these out by that cross too. I know a lot of people still have these. If you weren't here when I did it, if you misplaced yours, if you just think they're nifty and want another one, I don't care. physical representation of a spiritual action is what I like to call what this is. If you have something you need to give to God, if you have a water jug you need to leave with Him before you leave here today, do it. And then if you want a little physical, visual reminder that you left that behind, feel free to take one of these nails and just keep it somewhere, do something with. So anytime that fear starts to creep back, you can just take it out, hold it, look at it, and just remember, nah, I let this go already. This isn't my issue, this isn't my burden anymore. I don't know what anybody else is feeling right now, but I feel heavy. I don't know if people have things that are just kind of working their way out and making the. I don't know. But whatever it is, I feel something. So. I appreciate the opportunity to share, because I always appreciate the opportunity to share. So, and as always, I hope somebody has
something. I was a little late. I was a little late today coming here. This is what he said is really appropriate. I was a little late coming here today because I looked at a car with my daughter, and she's been without a car for a long time. We talked about the car clinic. It's Youth Sunday, and she kind of cried, and she told me she needs to have a car. It's been too long, but she didn't want to come back to us again, you know. And we struggle with what level we should be helping her in terms of her being independent. But I think it's safe to say, well, I'm speaking because it's Youth Sunday, it's safe to say that I think, I don't mean to be depressing, but I think America peaked, you know, in the last several years. And all of our kids, youth now that are becoming adults, were on this ride with us during the 80s and the 90s when it was very prosperous. Now, we're sending them out into a world where it's more difficult for the first time in American history to get by. My daughter is very sad about the fact that she feels like she's not making very much money and her money does not go as far. We can't let them down. We can't let them get depressed or feel sad, because they, by the time they get to be our age, the world is going to have to be different in some way. I don't know what that is, but they're the ones who are going to have to invent this new world. A different economy. I think there's a lot of things about the world that are just going to have to change, and they're going to be the ones who are going to do it. So let's support them. Let's make sure that we help them get from point A to point B. It's not always giving them, it's going to be embracing them, giving them hope, and giving them a chance. But some of the stuff they look out in, we've got to always remember they're looking into something that's a little bit hopeless, a little bit harder to see a future in. So we have to be with them through that whole process. And then, in line with what Corey said, Jeff Van Bondren, somebody that many people in the room know, just did a talk. We did a talk about Jesus' Sermon on the Mount statement where he said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And the way he said it was kind of, it was a little hard to take, but it was also really good. He said, you know, for all you people that, you know, everything's going good for you, everything's great, then you just go be good. You know, because the kingdom of heaven is for these, the broken. You people got it all together, you just go be good.
He's going to be sitting at the well with the broken people. So we can miss out on that, or we can just admit to ourselves that we're the broken ones and go, I want the kingdom of heaven. I want to be on that side of things. I love the transparency that we had at this little tiny stupid church.